The hospitals and others, they're foaming at the mouth right now and having a grand mal seizure. But I'm sorry. That's a way to affect the cost of living in America that every mom and dad's worried about it not. I wanted to do that. Still want to do that. I wanted to instruct the Senate Foreign Relations Committee to provide that before the United States of America agrees with the United Kingdom to give away our military base in Diego Garcia, that 2/3 of the members of the United States Senate have to vote to do that. What Prime Minister Starmer is doing right now is deep dish stupid. He says he's going to stop, but he may be back. I wanted to offer an amendment to instruct the Finance Committee to put together a bill that would eliminate federal income taxes and state income taxes if our colleagues would go on with it for our poll workers. They don't make but $50 or something. Why do we make them pay taxes? To allow the American people to buy insurance across state lines.
What if I told you one move in Washington just exposed how power really works? Not what they show you on TV, not the polished headlines, but the quiet strategic decisions that decide what laws live and what laws die. Because what John Kennedy just did on the floor of the United States Senate wasn't random. It was calculated. And once you understand it, you start seeing politics completely differently. At first glance, it looked simple. Kennedy placed a hold on a major reconciliation bill. Now, to the average person, that sounds technical, maybe even boring. But in Washington, that's power. That's a senator basically saying, nothing moves until I get a say. And here's where it gets interesting. He didn't block it because he wanted to kill the bill.
Agreed to a budget for the Department of Homeland Security as part of our normal budgetary process. They changed their mind, as is their right. But it caused the Department of Homeland Security to be shut down. And it hurt a lot of people, needlessly. Didn't hurt us. Didn't hurt us. We're still getting paid. We're still going home, but it hurt a lot of people. And our leader decided that he was going to negotiate with my friend, the minority leader, Schumer. And Senator Schumer was going to meet us halfway and figure out a way to get the agency open. He and my Democratic colleagues did agree to open everything but ICE, and I believe border security. They will never agree to fund ICE. Never. Not in your natural lifetime, not in mine. They won't do it. My friend Senator Schumer did the right thing last March when we were shut down. He agreed to release some of his members to let us open government back up.
Things in people's lives. We're talking about stopping medical debt from damaging credit scores. We're talking about adjusting retirement rules so people don't get squeezed later in life. Even something bold, holding senators' salaries during government shutdowns. That's huge. That hits accountability directly. But he dropped all of it. Why? Because in his calculation, risking that bill meant risking border security funding. So now the question becomes, is that leadership or is that compromise? Because depending on how you see it, that moment defines everything. And just when you think the story is slowing down, Kennedy shifts the focus completely and brings up something that instantly sparks debate across the entire country. The SAVE Act. Now this is where things go from political to explosive. Because the SAVE Act isn't small. It's not subtle. It's a direct attempt to reshape how elections work in America. 3 major points. Simple on the surface, but powerful underneath. Number 1, only U.S. citizens should be registered to vote. Now, to some people, that sounds obvious. To others, it raises serious questions about implementation and fairness. Number 2, proof of identity for federal elections. Again, some hear security, others hear restriction. And number 3, ending what he calls election month and pushing for a single election day. No extended timelines, no drawn-out voting periods, Just one day. Clean, direct, final. And this is where the country splits. Because Kennedy frames it one way. He says this is about trust. He argues that if people don't trust elections, nothing else in the system matters.
I want to give full credit. Ted Cruz, I believe, was the first one to do it. I was second. And Ted went first only because he beat me to it, but also because Ted pointed out in President Trump's first term that we shouldn't leave efforts to do reconciliation on the table. He was right then, he's right now. The leader said, okay, finally, after doing everything he could, except standing on one leg and barking like a dog. Could we have order in the Senate, please? Could we ask conversation to be taken
Conversation should be taken off the floor.
Senator Thune did everything but stand on one leg and bark like a dog to get Chuck to agree. It was his right. Chuck wouldn't agree. And for all I know, John did stand on one leg and bark like a dog. It didn't work, so we finally said, okay, let's do reconciliation. Now, once we started talking about reconciliation, which Senator Cruz and I and others pushed, I said I wanted to try to use, well, I said first, I refuse to believe that Democrats in the Senate and the House cannot adult hard enough to come up with a couple of issues that we can agree to do in addition to funding ICE and border security in reconciliation. Didn't believe that then, and I don't believe that now.
He argues that if people don't trust elections, nothing else in the system matters. And honestly, that's a strong argument. Because without trust, democracy starts to feel shaky. But here's the other side. Critics say moves like this could make it harder for some people to vote, that it could limit access, that it could shift the balance of participation. So now you've got two completely different interpretations of the same proposal. One sees protection, the other sees restriction. And that tension? That's exactly what makes this moment so important. Because this isn't just about a bill. It's about the future of how elections are run. And more importantly, who gets to shape that future? Now here's what really stands out in all of this. Kennedy doesn't present this as a partisan attack. He doesn't say this is for Republicans or against Democrats. Instead, he calls for bipartisanship. He basically says, this should be something both sides can agree on. That restoring trust in elections should not be political. And that sounds good. It sounds unifying. But let's be real for a second. In today's political climate, is that even possible? Because every issue now turns into a battle line. Every proposal becomes a fight. Every compromise gets questioned. So when someone says, let's come together, the real question is, will anyone actually do it? Or is that just another line we've heard too many times? And this is why this entire moment matters. Because it shows you something deeper. This wasn't just a speech. This wasn't just a senator talking. This was a masterclass in political strategy. Knowing when to push, knowing when to pull back, knowing what to fight for, and what to sacrifice. And whether you agree with him or not, you can't ignore it. Because this is how decisions are really made. Not just through votes, but through timing, pressure, and leverage.
If number two, we pass a rule for federal elections that says you have to prove you are who you say you are in order to vote. And number three, I would like to see us, I consider this part of the Save America Act, but it's not traditionally part. I think we ought to go back to having an election day and not an election month. I know some votes come in late, I get that. We're smart enough to figure out a way to accommodate that. But this election month stuff is just undermining the people's confidence, both Democrats, Republicans, and Independents. That's what I mean when I say the SAVE Act. And I said I'm going to try to put the SAVE Act on the reconciliation bill. And I'm going to keep my word. Where I come from, your word is your bond. Now, Senator Thune, our leader, came to me earlier, and so did Whip Barrasso, and said, some senators want to do the vote-a-rama tonight, and they got to get home for various reasons. And I've been there. And if you insist on going tomorrow, because frankly I'm worried about the health of some of our members. Not that they're in bad health, but it's hard to stay up all night. It was hard to stay up all night when I did it in college. I was studying, of course. But anyway, I said, no, I'd rather go tomorrow, and I'm going to object. And John explained to me, and others did, that, well, the majority wants to go. So I said, okay, I'll pull my hold. I didn't realize then, this is my fault. I thought everybody knew I wanted to offer amendments. I didn't realize then that there was a way, procedurally, for me to be blocked from offering my amendments. That's my fault. I just didn't know the rules. You want me to talk again about how rules, Tony? I won't get off on that tangent. Did I mention they were put together by a heroin addict with a socket wrench? If I didn't, that's how I feel about our rules. But anyway, that was my fault. So I called Senator Thune back, and I called Senator Barrasso back and said, guys, my bad, I was ignorant. I'm renewing my hold because y'all have the right to block me from offering amendments, but I have the right to exercise my procedural rights and start this thing tomorrow and leave more time to debate. And I'll apologize to every one of my colleagues. I've been there. I'm sorry.